Today's guest is a true comedy legend who's made her mark in Hollywood not once but twice. After stepping out of the spotlight for a bit, she's back with that same razor sharp wit and fierce energy we all love. Her stand up is a perfect blend of sarcasm, woke activism, unapologetic feminism, LGBTQ pride, and senior sexuality, creating a comedy gumbo that always leaves the audiences wanting more. Now, she's currently starring in three TV series: NBC's Night Court, Netflix's The Upshaws, and ABC's 911. She's touring with her Book of Marsha stand up show and hosting her very own late night YouTube show, Inside the Marsha Verse. Please
What?
welcome my friend, the legend, Marsha Warfield. Hey, Marsha.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, my
I'm so
goodness.
happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my, you have been busy though, Marsha. I mean, what is it like working on three different shows?
Well, you take your work where you can get it in this business. But right now, I'm here in LA doing another night court. So um, I'm doing another episode, and then I'm off to Sacramento to do a show at the Guild Theater there.
Well, I grew up watching Night Court. I mean, I'm a huge fan, obviously, and I grew up watching it. And I was one of the first shows that to me was a diverse cast, right? So it was like so wonderful to see, a woman of color in a place of, dominance, for lack of a better word, and doing her thing. So I'm a huge fan, and I love the show. It's nice they're bringing it back, too.
It is. It was a surprise. I mean, I knew
Yeah.
when they started doing the reboot that, they were going in a whole different direction. They were
Mm.
going with a younger demographic, and that was perfectly fine. I was one of the biggest supporters and fans of them, and hope that they would be successful, and they have been.
I have to say that I was doing my residency in Vegas, and one night someone came to me and said, Marsha Warfield is backstage. He wants to say hi to you. And I was like, what?
I know. Oh my
What? I
god.
mean, to have, have her as this wonderful example at the time of stand up comedy. I mean, I've seen her on the Richard Pryor show. I studied her, and she was just so strong and bold. But for her to come to my little old comedy show,
Oh.
and we talked and we had such a great time. I love giving her flowers and telling her thank you for that, because that gave me the boost that I needed, Marsha.
Oh, well, thank
Oh.
you. And likewise, I told you, I hadn't been working. And so it was one of my first nights out. I said, I'm going to go see what's up with Lonnie. And I went by myself and asked if I could come backstage and say hi. And you said yes. And so we had a nice chat. We took a photo.
She said
Yep.
yes to you. She doesn't let me backstage. Like,
I had to keep you away.
yeah, she was like, no, Lonnie's busy.
She eat all the snacks, Marsha. So,
Oh, well.
well, welcome to our podcast. And this week's grown ass topic is rediscovering yourself after 40. In a culture that glorifies youth and pressures us to have everything figured out by our 20s, a lot of us have realized who we were back then isn't necessarily who we need to be now. Life changes you, sometimes so much that you forget what even makes you you. So today we are diving into what it means to rediscover yourself, assess your wants and needs, and redefine who you are as you step into the new chapter of life. Marcia, you have talked openly about taking a break and
Right.
coming back, embracing the second wave of your career. How did you do it?
I made the decision once I wanted to come back that I was not the same person who left. I was, that woman was in her 40s. I was in my 60s, and I had a whole different perspective. And I didn't even remember the material I used to do. I had no idea. And so I decided to start over. I went back to the bars. I went back to the open mics. I went back to uh, bringer shows and whatever I could get stage time, and started building an act 5 minutes at a time until I felt confident enough to say, I'm a comedian again. But I knew that it was not a continuation, so to speak. It was a new beginning. It was starting all over, a whole new life.
I want to go back though because I just want to for the people and the young we do have young listeners to understand your at the time before you took the break who was Marsha Warfield because I know who you are but I want to hear from you like the history of the stand up the shows that you did Richard Pryor give us a little bit of that.
I started in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. And at that time, open mics, comedy clubs, all those things were relatively new. We were making the transition from the cabaret era where people worked in supper clubs and that sort of thing. And there weren't so many concerts, comedy concerts especially. If you were a stand-up, you wanted to find a singer that would take you on the road with them and be an opening act. You were a perpetual opening act. And I think it was Richard Pryor who flipped the script. And when he was doing one of his albums, he was the headliner, of course, of a concert, but he had Patti LaBelle open for him. That was huge because to that point, I had not heard of that happening. And so the comedy clubs, the Tonight Show had moved to Los Angeles from New York. New York had been the mecca and the hub. But with the Tonight Show moving and the Comedy Store blowing up, it moved to Los Angeles. So I did stand up in Chicago for a couple of years. And then I moved to Los Angeles. I was 22 and I went to the Comedy Store the first night I was in town, and the guy at the door was this nice-looking black guy, nice little fro, and he had on tennis shorts. And back then, everybody was tying their sweaters around their neck like some kind of preppy something.
Yeah.
But then when I approached him, he was working the door, and I told him my name, and asked him if I could come in. He said, "Oh yeah, baby, you can come on in. There's no big thing." I'm like, with this voice, there's a brother. I know this language here, and he's looking all Beverly Hills, and it was John Witherspoon.
Shut up.
And
Wow.
from that point on, John had a nice butt. But anyway, Monday, open mic night, I went on and got passed over. They told me to call in for spots. And I didn't see it as like this big career boost thing. I was like, okay, this is just a way to get some stage time. And so I started calling in and getting spots. But I didn't get a lot. I didn't get a lot until I started volunteering to follow whoever was the hard to follow comic. And at that time, nobody was harder to follow than Richard Pryor, and nobody wanted to follow it. Being from Chicago, and we think we're gangsters and everything. I was like, I don't care who's on stage. I'll follow anybody. He's gone.
Okay.
It's my turn now. And so I did, and that's how I got stage time and how I got the not the Tonight Show, the Richard Pryor show. He got the series not long after that.
Right.
That was in '77. And Paul Mooney, who I had met the first night I got to town, Mr. Paul Mooney.
Yeah, that voice.
Yes,
That
yes.
voice.
And he said, "Well, we need an ensemble." He said, "But y'all can do it. These guys here, they can do it as well as anybody else." And so he booked us all out at the Comedy Store. Me, Tim Reed was working at the time, but Tim Reed and Sandra Bernhardt, Robin Williams was new in town. I think it was one of the first things Robin did. That and a movie called Can I Do It Till I Need Glasses? He and I were both in Can I Do It Till I Need Glasses? And we both played sperm.
It's just fearlessness throughout your life. Marsha, it seems, and you've had the success with Night Court and with your stand up, but then there came a point where you just stopped.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why you stopped and then what made you get back?
Well, and there were a lot of things going on in my life. My mother and my aunt, the two people who had raised me pretty much, were both battling cancer, and they both passed away in 1995 within
Sorry.
2 months of each other. Like I said, I did my talk show was 92, I think, 91, 92, and then I did Empty Nest for a while, and then I did a lot of guest appearances. I was doing game shows. I was working clubs and colleges and opening for big name people. But then I was just spiraling, and I thought I would take a couple of weeks, and get myself together. I didn't realize just how much I was grieving and, overwhelmed and stuff. I thought I was Superwoman. We all do.
We all do.
And we are, and had I had, and I don't mean to blame anybody, but I didn't really have a support group, somebody who was in, similar circumstances who I could confide in and cry on their shoulder. It was like I had been the one facilitating everything and making sure that everybody could do what they needed to do.
Well, that's another thing I think, again, the grown-ass woman of it all. Like, my mom went through a similar thing where my mom was a principal for many years, had a career and all that, and then when her parents got ill, and she has like 5 brothers, and who was the one who had to step up, not to male bash, but like my mom. So my mom literally retired early to take care of her parents. So like, do you think that as grown-ass women, we, put ourselves second to anything because we have to step up in those kind of moments?
We do. And I've seen a lot of women in similar situations. In fact, and I don't know, they both have been public about it online, but Yvette Nicole
Brown, yeah.
Brown is talking about being a caregiver. Leanne Lord also took care of her parents until they passed away.
Right.
And I see so many other people, many of who are trying to maintain in the business, but it's a huge struggle.
Huge.
And we are raised, and I'm 70. I was born in 1954. I was taught to submit, to put myself second. I was taught to let him win, to live throughout some man, either your father and then the man he sold you to into marriage.
Right. No, you're 100% right. Yeah.
And that didn't work out because you ended up coming out.
Right.
Well, I didn't know I was
so
gay.
Joke's on them.
Right. I wish I had known. I had so much. My life would have been so different. I'd have been macaroni. Been a whole different person. But
So
when did you find out you were?
I fell in love when I was 23. And I didn't know that's what was going on. I just knew there was this woman that I didn't know how to talk to, and I didn't know how to relate. And I told my boyfriend, I don't know why she makes me so nervous. I don't blah 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 blah, and on and on. And I said, I don't know why I like her so much. No. And he looked at me and said, "Like, bitch, you in love." And I went, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I went, it makes sense now. Okay, I'll see you later. And
bye.
That relationship never happened, but it was the first time I realized that I might not be the straight woman who just can't find the right man.
Right.
I love
But
that.
I had gotten married. I got married when I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow. Oh, you had to go through so much, Marsha. And it's the thing, it's like in your mind, what are the key lessons you've learned about yourself through this whole process that you still stand in even at 70?
I learned that I am still healing my inner child. 70 years old, and I am still healing my inner child. I'm still realizing uh, what's my fault and what's not. And so it's easier now to shed some of those burdens and guilt, the guilt of not being able to save everybody. I used to say, who makes me laugh? Who picks up my slack? And nobody. And that's true for everybody. Nobody is going to do that for you. But I had to really reassess everything and start trying to heal me for me and put me first, which was, as I was raised, that was a taboo.
Yeah,
To think of
100%.
yourself first is selfish. It's not something you do. And it's really something you have to do before you can really help anybody else.
Absolutely. Did
Rediscover
you learn that
yourself.
in therapy, or have you been in therapy? 'Cause that sounds like very like inner child seems like a very therapy kind of no, but in a good way.
I learned the words for it online. You know,
Oh, okay.
I did. I went through the process, and that time off alone, thinking, trying to figure stuff out is what really helped show me the way. And going through the things I went
So
through,
self-reflection, very much so. It sounds
I
like.
spent a lot of time, yeah, looking at me and what's my fault and what's not. It's easy to find out what's your fault, but what are you not responsible
Right.
for? We take so much on, and so you have to say, that ain't my business. That ain't my fault.
Right.
I
I
didn't
love that.
do
Yeah,
that.
you got to stop blaming yourself. And I know
Yeah.
a lot of grown women, they blame themselves for things that happened in the past. I mean, and you got to realize, we all came up at a different time. And now that's why I tell these younger women, take whatever is out there, because it's the people like Marsha Warfield that have paved the way, especially when I'm talking to young comedians. They paved the way for us, for her to be this strong black woman on television, and to do stand up and to amass this tremendous following of people. They have it a lot easier. But I would ask you, Marsha, what advice would you give to someone who feels lost or uncertain about their identity and, they're 40 and up?
I say, I call it, for black women, I call it the sapphire spirit. Um, the angry black woman started showing up in the 50s. The outspoken black woman who said, no, I need alimony. I need, marriage was a whole different thing back then. And speaking out against the things that civil rights, feminism, everything. And so she was called the angry black woman. At the same time, the Sapphire character on Amos and Andy was an outspoken woman who was emasculating and made men feel small and all that kind of stuff. And they married those two. So the Sapphire became the angry black woman, and it was a put down.
Yes.
But that is the reflection of a fear of a strength. That is somebody saying, whoa, this woman, when she finds herself, is going to be a threat to me. So we will mock her. We will make fun of her. And I say, embrace that. Embrace that
Yes.
sapphire that terrifies people. To believe that you can emasculate a person by looking at them or talking to them, that's a power that you haven't recognized and they have. And so to protect themselves, they minimize that
Yes.
power, and then you
Absolutely.
accept that. Stop accepting that. Yes, I can emasculate you with a look. Now,
Yeah.
Hell no.
Well, that look just
okay,
emasculated me.
and stand up. And that's one of the things I love about Kamala Harris. She has a stare that, and she looks at you, and then her eyes narrow, and then they narrow again until you understand that she does not, she's not playing with you. And she never loses her femininity. She never becomes masculine. She shows her feminine power, her sapphire spirit, and nobody has an answer for it. It's like
Yes, Marsha.
you're exposing that fear of feminine power. And so I'm all about promoting that. We've been indoctrinated to believe that you're the weaker sex. You are the life givers. You are, you are the creator. I believe I founded the Church of Jesus because the divine mother, she's umbilically connected to her creations, and we're all born of that spirit that's in nature, in every species. She creates life. She brings life from spirit to flesh. So, and she's connected to the first mother, the nature. So you have to, or at least I do, I have to celebrate that, and I have to. It's not about putting anybody else down. It's about no, but you can't put me down.
That's right. You only have one life. And Marsha Warfield, you are living your life. Thank you for joining us today, Marsha. It's always a pleasure. And for our listeners, be sure to check out Marsha's show, Midnight in the Marshaverse, on YouTube. It's a fantastic show. You can watch it anytime. But midnight is the time. That's the time, okay?
You know the nighttime is the right time.
Yes, Marsha.
It's
Yes.
on YouTube. And check out her other shows, Night Court on NBC Peacock, The Upshaws on Netflix, and 911 on ABC.
The girl's got a lot of shows.
She working, okay? When we come back, we're going to get into the takeaway with Loni. This is Grown Ass Women Talking. Thank you, Marsha.
Thank you both. I had such a ball being here with you.
Okay, welcome back. Now it's time for the takeaway. Loni, just school us on what we learned today.
Well, I think we could not have gotten a better guest than Marsha Warfield as an example of rediscovering yourself after 40.
I
I mean,
agree.
literally, she is comedy history. When you're trying to rediscover yourself, sometimes you have to change priorities. You have to change those personal things that's happening. Even like maybe, and I hate to say it, if your kids is not helping you get your priorities straight, you got to put them in a different atmosphere. If it's that love thing, that boo thing, like if James is getting on my nerves, I put him over here in a different, because what did Marsha say? We have to put ourselves. You can't help nobody else unless you help yourself. Why when you get on the airplane, they tell you, Erica, what? If there's an
put
emergency,
your mask on first.
put that mask on first before you go around helping everybody else. So remember, sometimes you have to change your priorities when you're trying to rediscover yourself. Also, you got to let go of past expectations. Sometimes you got to forgive yourself for things that have happened that you cannot change, and you know, because there's no way to have growth. And like you said, Erica, you also may need therapy. You're never too old for therapy, okay? It's like, I'm like, go find you a therapist, okay? Somebody to talk to you or something like that. Remember, when you're trying to rediscover yourself, have confidence in your own self. Maybe you need to walk a little more, drink a little more water, maybe cut down on that alcohol, cut down on that sex, Erica. I'm just saying, you know, when you try to rediscover
no and
yourself,
no.
it's like,
Don't be in my business. This is about Marsha.
also build new relationships, have friendships, partnerships. You know, when you're rediscovering yourself, don't just cut off and say, I only want to keep this set of friends. Sometimes you need new friends and new discoveries. So
What are you trying to tell me, Loni? Are you trying to get rid of me?
Erica, any final words?
Where's James right now? Because I feel like you put him in a closet. You just talking
James
about
is at work.
No,
That's
you
where he's supposed to be.
James, knock 3 times if you're in the closet.
Like James is at work.
You just said
is that
you're
all
trying
you
to-
have to say?
You just said you were going to give James a timeout. I'm worried about James. That's all I'm saying.
No, I said sometimes, like when you are trying to rediscover yourself, and I was using him as an example, which I always do.
Yes.
You know, if your children or your family, your boo thing, you know, they're coming at you and you trying to, you know, rediscover yourself or you're trying to get through a certain problem, sometimes you have to be selfish. That's what Marsha was actually saying, and I totally agree with her. So I was just reinforcing that. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Grown Ass Women Talking. Please follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating, please, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram or YouTube at GAWT Pod. Come see me as I perform stand-up in Phoenix, Stand Up Live, November the 10th. I will be at the Miami Improv December 15th. Tickets are on sale. Just check those websites. It'll be there. Thanks again to Marsha Warfield for joining us. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye. Love to everyone.